I mean, being a novelist is a perfect thing to be if one side of your family are show people and want to be on the stage all the time, and the other side of your family are wholly reserved. Because in a novel, you are at once displaying yourself and not. Now you see me, now you don't.
I used to walk on the great salt marshes there, and geese would fly up ahead of me, and I would come home from a 4-hour walk feeling wonderful, feeling very healthy and happy, but unchanged. I think it was the deepest sort of sleep, really. The bulk of my work was written on Cape Cod, where I lived from 1950 until 1970, and that, in effect, probably was a shank of my creative life, as Mark Twain's creative life was pretty much over by the time he was 56, and I think it's a normal experience for American writers to have done most of their work by then. And I would have been quite content to have created what I did by 1970 when I finally left Cape Cod.
Have you ever met a real criminal?
Maybe, but I don't know if so.
Why are you so fascinated by crime?
I don't know that I'm very fascinated by it. I've just begun writing about it, and then one continues, doesn't one, usually? I've always liked detective stories.
But isn't it true that an author can write only about himself?
Malgré le fait que je vis en France pleinement, c'est-à-dire je ne suis pas je ne me sens pas être un émigré, quelqu'un nostalgique qui pense toujours à son pays d'origine. Alors il y a une évidence qui est valable pour tous les écrivains. Je crois que c'est dans la première moitié de votre vie, quand vous accumulez le stock de grandes expériences vécues, et sociales, et érotiques, et sexuelles. C'est-à-dire, vous êtes toujours comme un écrivain enraciné dans la première moitié de votre vie. C'est pourquoi Prague, qui symbolise cette première moitié de ma vie, devient le décor de tous mes romans. Mais je veux dire une chose, vu d'ici, Prague devient une autre chose qu'elle n'était quand j'ai vécu là-bas. Prague devient, dans mes yeux, de plus en plus une ville européenne, ou je dirais la ville européenne par excellence. Ça veut dire une ville où le drame de l'Europe.
Every particle of this universe contains the whole of the universe. You and yourself have the whole of the universe. I cut you up in a certain way. I cut up the universe. If, this is Wittgenstein, if you have a pre-recorded universe in which everything is already pre-recorded, the only thing that is not pre-recorded are the pre-recordings themselves. So with my cut-ups, I was attempting to tamper with the basic pre-recordings. And I think I have succeeded to some modest extent.
Would you ever feel inclined to write autobiographically? I mean, take anything from either your own...
Never. Never.
Why not?
Well, two reasons. I feel if you do that, it's a kind of robbery of people, the people you live with. If you, for example, take your marriage and use that in a novel, I think that is morally worrying. I won't go further than that because I think that's unfair. It's a judgment on other people, but I think these questions should be questioned deeply by them. How much purity do you bring to this? When you take characters from your own life, how pure are you as an artist? How much are you working out of the tensions, difficulties, angers, envies you have had of that person? And once you start doing that, you are on a most dangerous moral path, and I think also artistically.
When I went to Texas, I thought, why are people taking me seriously? why on earth? Then I found out. Well, firstly, I was a South American. That made me something picturesque, almost into a Mexican, no? Then I was old. I was already old at the time. That was way back 1961 or 62. Now I would think of that as youth. At that time I didn't. People thought of it as... Then poet and also blind. That made me into Homer or Milton. So that I had all those trick cards in my hand. You see, an old, blind, South American poet, that's quite impressive. Then I had to live up to that image.
When I first started writing, I realized I didn't want to write just about gay life. What I wanted out of literature, and what I had never found in literature, was a story that would incorporate everyone, that would place my life in the context of the rest of the world, so that gay people and straight people and in-between people would fit together all on one large canvas and function lovingly with each other. So that's what I set out to do in Tales of the City. I think my strongest instinct, really, when I'm writing is to entertain. That's not very respectable in some ways. There are people who say that that means you're not literary. I think it's possible to be both. I think it's possible for art to be entertainment. At least it's what I strive for. And if it's not art, I'll still settle for entertainment.
I think unless a writer is ruthless, they might as well not bother. I think you have to be ruthless.
Why?
Why? Because otherwise you're forever sitting on the fence. You're namby-pamby. You're never really confronting what it is you're meant to be writing about. I mean, I know it's very difficult that a lot of writers, their lives are littered with corpses. Too bad. It can't be helped.
Did you feel there was a disparity between the kind of book you were doing privately as a serious writer and the sort of script you were being asked to work on in your 9-to-5 job?
Yes, but thank goodness I had the sense to realize that I wasn't the great genius prostituting myself or any of that silly talk that so many people put on saying, oh, I'm a whore or something. I always realized it was very good training and that it made you realize things that you often lose sight of by getting so arty and literary. That's to say, the fundamentals of telling a story and the very simple things of putting A before B and B before C and getting it all sorted out and telling it in a direct visual way. That's always something you can learn by working for the movies, I think. It doesn't matter what it is.
When I'm a writer, I'm someone else. I don't mean that I am consciously or deliberately or maliciously destructive. I mean that I'm free and, as it were, unburdened by allegiances that mean a great deal to me in my life. And so I'm without the restrictions of life, which I don't feel as restrictions in my life whatsoever. But I would feel them as restrictions in my work if I had to abide by all sorts of considerations of discretion, of decorum, and so on. Now, I don't mean that I intend in my work to write exposés, sensational documents whatsoever. I just feel that as a writer, I must be free to have a perspective larger, deeper, darker than that of a son, a husband, a relative, or a friend. The writer isn't those things. The writer is a writer.